For a lot of gamers, boss fights are some of the most exciting and memorable moments in video games. These encounters with larger-than-life baddies are intense and challenging, and many players can relate to the feeling of elation you get when the big guy goes down. But for developers, boss battles can invoke very different memories. Crafting one of these encounters is a colossal undertaking that requires contributions from a large number of people. Artists, animators, gameplay programmers, and cinematographers are all required to make a fully fleshed out boss fight. And once the boss is done, most of that hard work is not going to get used for anything else. Luckily, developers have a number of ways to make boss fight development more efficient. Two of the most popular being the recurring boss and the demoted boss. The recurring boss is where you fight the same enemy with some variation in multiple boss battles. It's a great way to reuse assets and create the feeling of an enemy that continues to grow stronger, but personally, I'm not a huge fan of this technique. I never really find the second encounter to be as engaging as the first, and it can really feel like the game is just trying to recycle old content, which, I mean, they are. However, I am a huge fan of the demoted boss. This is when a boss you fight early on in a game returns later as a standard enemy. This clearly addresses our main issue of being more time efficient for the developer, but it also comes along with a slew of additional benefits that would make this technique worth it even if it didn't save the developer time. Today, I want to look at one of the best examples I've ever seen of the demoted boss, the Doom Hunter from Doom Eternal. This enemy provides a masterclass on this design technique, so in this video, we're going to break down how Doom Eternal implements the Doom Hunter as both a boss and a standard enemy. Let's start with the basics. The Doom Hunter is part of the Super Heavy class of enemies, the largest and most dangerous type that is still liable to show up in a normal fight. We are first introduced to this demon in level 4 as the area's final boss. In this fight, you take on a single Doom Hunter in a small arena, before being dropped into a larger arena to take on two at once. Then, in level 7, he starts showing up in standard encounters. The Doom Hunter has 4 different attacks that allow him to be useful from any range. He excels from far away, hounding the player with fireballs, bullets, and rockets, but you also can't get too close, or he'll pummel you with a brutal chainsaw slash. This enemy also has 2 distinct forms that you have to fight through before you can take him out for good. In his first form, he rides on a flying sled and is protected from most attacks by a plasma shield. You can either destroy the plasma shield with a weapon that can go through it, or ignore the shield entirely by attacking the sled. Once the sled is destroyed, he enters his second phase, where he flies around without the shield. In this new form, the Doom Hunter is far more mobile and aggressive, but loses access to some of his attacks. However, you won't have to deal with a shield this time, so you can just hit him with whatever you want until he finally goes down. The Doom Hunter's high level of complexity makes him a perfect candidate to be a demoted boss. His large arsenal of attacks and multiple forms makes for a really engaging boss fight, where you really need to learn the enemy's mechanics to succeed. And that same level of complexity is fantastic for later game encounters, when the player is ready to handle a bigger challenge. By having the Doom Hunter fill these 2 roles, the developer saves an incredible amount of time that would have been spent developing 2 separate enemies. Some people might overlook the time the developer saves by doing this, pointing out that the Hunter is just one of 27 different enemies in the main roster. But this ignores the fact that the Doom Hunter is one of the most complex demons in the game. There are only a few other enemies that have this many moving parts, and it wouldn't be easy or cheap to design another monster that fills the same role. Demoted bosses also lead to some really satisfying moments that show you how much you've improved. When I first fought the Doom Hunter, it wasn't an easy encounter. I died quite a few times, even on the first stage when you're only fighting one hunter. So when the game started throwing them at me in a sea of other monsters, I was really surprised. This enemy had been a tough fight 1v1 just a couple levels ago. Was I really going to be able to take one on now? But the game knew my skill better than I did, and after a few tries, I was victorious. This was immensely satisfying, because it gave me context on how far I had come. In a lot of games, including Doom Eternal, the encounter difficulty ramps up slowly, so you don't ever have a chance to compare where you are now to where you were a few levels before. But taking on the Doom Hunter again made me appreciate how much things had changed, and exactly how much better I was. However, the fact that I could now take on the Doom Hunter in a standard encounter was not just a testament to my improved aim and movement. It was also a sign that the game had done a good job of teaching me the Doom Hunter's mechanics. Because when it comes to demoted bosses, the first time you fight the boss is essentially just a glorified tutorial. I mean, think about it. Fighting a single enemy that you'll see more of later in a carefully constructed room? That sounds like a tutorial to me. This fight does an incredible job of teaching you the Doom Hunter's mechanics in a sanitized place where you can focus all your attention on just him. By the time you're done, you'll understand how to deal with his shields, attacks, and multiple forms. The best part is that most players would never even consider that this fight is a teaching exercise. The opening cinematics tell you that this is the biggest, most dramatic moment of the level, so you just feel like you're playing an intense boss fight. At this point, we've gone over the benefits of the demoted boss, and it may seem like games should just be doing this all the time. The developer saves time, the players feel accomplished, and the learning curve is smooth. What's not to like? However, there are some definite drawbacks to using this design technique, and developers may need to make compromises to keep things running smoothly. We need to make an enemy that functions as both a boss and a basic enemy, and that's not an easy task. The most obvious problem is when the boss is too strong to be a common enemy. Bosses are designed to be the center of attention, and if you don't keep their strength in check, the player will never be able to handle them with more threats in the arena. Doom handles this by making the boss fight a two-section affair, where you fight one Doom Hunter in Stage 1 and two Doom Hunters in Stage 2. This makes the encounter feel a bit less like a true boss fight where you put all your effort into taking down one big enemy. But it keeps the Doom Hunter's strength in check, ensuring that he isn't too strong to show up in a large horde. There are also certain common mechanics that are just not workable for demoted bosses, such as bosses that are too large or require a very specific arena to fight in. I love giant monsters just as much as anyone else, but if a boss takes up half the screen or can't walk over a ledge, it probably shouldn't show up in a more casual encounter. The Doom Hunter is bigger than your average enemy, but not so large that he needs a specific arena, and his flying sled allows him to be mobile in any environment. At the end of the day, the demoted boss is a powerful technique that rewards developers who understand its complexities. There are a lot of great demoted bosses across a number of different games and genres, but the Doom Hunter is one of my favorites because of how well it illustrates the core concepts. It saves the developer time, provides a tutorial for a complex enemy, and shows the player their progression. It's strong enough to be a boss, but not too strong to be a standard enemy, and it's small and mobile enough to show up in many environments. The Doom Hunter is a truly special piece of game design that shows us just how spectacular video game enemies can be. Thanks for watching.